Hello and welcome to our news program. This is Shimelis M Gebremichael with UMD News Package. While inviting you all to stay with the program, UMD News team highly appreciate the constructive feedbacks you are providing us over the last few days. Please keep on doing so. We want to hear more from you as we move forward and improve our services. UMD extensively works in understanding, measuring, and doing matters. Our news package dwell on asking the 5 W's and 8 questions while we always check if the information is balanced, factual, and truthful. Here are what are making the headlines over these last couple of days in Ethiopia and the Horn. Tigray Regional State condemns persistent obstruction of humanitarian aid by the federal government of Ethiopia. Over 60 Oromo organizations call for a credible and inclusive national dialogue. Sudanese protest turns deadly as security forces squash demonstrators. 3 people were killed as Sudanese security forces cracked down on protest. And now the news in detail. Please stay with the program. The Tigray Regional State condemns the persistent obstruction of humanitarian aid by the federal government of Ethiopia. In its press release issued on Monday, January 24, 2022, the External Affairs Office of the regional state expressed its deep concern on the outrageous Abiy administration's accusation of the Tigray administration regarding the obstruction of humanitarian aid for the people of Tigray. This, according to the statement, is far from reality and is rather escaping its evil strategy of obstructing humanitarian aid, denying the entry of fuel as well as self-saving medical supplies, limiting the amount of operations cash for aid agencies, and expelling humanitarian officials that refused to toe the line. The statement also expressed its views that none of the agencies operating in the region and other international institutions have accused of the Tigray administration of obstructing aid, but rather the baseless assertions of the Abiy administration. While the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have issued a statement of allowing humanitarian aid to the region, including the 27 World Food Programme WFP tracks, clear and deliberate obstacles were observed in the Samara Ab'ala Ma'ala route, the statement added. The press release also quoted the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, reports as saying that no humanitarian workers have been cleared to travel by the road from Samara to Ma'ala since October 28, 2021. Accordingly, only 15% of the aid trucks arrived at the region and only 3,000 trucks of the desired 20,000 managed to reach since July 2021. The External Affairs Office has finally called upon the international community to insist on unfettered humanitarian access through all means, including airdrop, before things get worse. In a similar development, the External Affairs Office of Tigray accused and the Ethiopian Ministry and Afari forces of numerous provocative acts despite their promises to halt advances to the region. According to the press statement, the Tigray region has tolerance under provocation to address the entire encompassing siege. However, Tigray is currently forced to engage in countering various provocative acts over the last days due to the attacks at different fronts. The attacks meant to unravel the historical ties between the people of Afar and Tigray intensified since January 23, 2022. The office has accordingly called upon the people of Afar to deter forces in Afar hell-bent on sowing discord and conflict between the two brotherly people who have maintained their historical relations. It is to be recalled that Ethiopia has recently announced that it has decided to airlift medical and food supplies to the northern Tigray region as deliveries via town of Abala are blocked due to renewed fighting. In addition, the Ethiopian government claimed to deliver humanitarian assistance worth 1.48 billion birr or $29.8 million over the last 6 months alongside its partners. Getachew Reda, the spokesperson of the Tigray also admitted that fighting was going on in Abala but denied that his forces had launched it. According to Getachew, the Afar forces and their Eritrean partners launched the conflict. Meanwhile, UN says thousands of Eritrean refugees in Tigray are dying as access to aid remains blocked. The United Nations Refugee Agency says thousands of Eritreans in Tigray are living under life-threatening conditions because they have no access to humanitarian aid. UN refugee staff members say they were shocked by what they saw when they visited the Mai Aini and Ad Harush camps for Eritrean refugees in southern Tigray for the first time in 3 weeks. VOA reported, quoting eyewitnesses, that an effective blockade has prevented humanitarian aid, including fuel, from reaching the area since mid-December. In addition, food is running out in the two camps, and refugees have been selling their clothes and few belongings to get food. The UNHCR says it wants to relocate over 25,000 Eritrean refugees remaining in the two camps. The agency is also calling on all parties for a ceasefire and guarantees of safe passage to allow the operation to go ahead. Still suffering, detained Ethiopians in Saudi Arabia plead with the government to intervene. In its investigative report on Ethiopians detained in Saudi Arabia's prison, Addis Standard magazine revealed that the crackdown against these detainees has continued. Addis Standard exposed that detainees, nursing mothers, infants, and pregnant women are currently suffering in the prison without sufficient food, medicine, and a proper place to sleep, and urged the government to intervene. While detainees complained about embassy officials and Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials are abandoning their responsibilities and ignoring their pleas, Addis Standard has substantiated its story, contacting several detainees, and found out that an estimated 200,000 Ethiopian migrants are in danger, while the year-long government initiative has only resulted in the return of only about 24,000 illegal migrants. Ethene Shabarra's January 22, 2022 report at Addis Standard is worth reading to get the full gist of this story. We invite you all to do so. WHO board halts Ethiopia's anti-Tedros speech, postpones probe decision. The chair of a World Health Organization body cut off Ethiopia's envoy on Monday as he tried to deliver a speech criticizing the global organization's leader and postponed a decision on a request from Addis Ababa to investigate his actions. The flare-up came at the WHO's week-long executive board meeting, which is set to discuss a bid by current Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus for a second term as head of the UN Health Agency. According to Reuters report, WHO Executive Board Chair Patrick Amolth said at the start of the hybrid meeting in Geneva that it would set aside a request from Ethiopia to investigate Tedros for allegedly supporting Tigray forces fighting the Ethiopian government. None of the board's 34 members, which do not include Ethiopia, objected. However, Ethiopia's ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva, Zennebe Kebede Qoricho, later thought to deliver a virtual speech criticizing Tedros, but was twice prevented from doing so and eventually cut off after an awkward exchange. Further discussion of the matter is not relevant and is therefore out of order under the relevant rules of procedure, said Amoth, who is from Kenya, which is one of 28 countries that nominated Tedros for a second term as WHO chief. The WHO Executive Board has accordingly nominated Dr. Tedros for WHO Director General position to be decided in May 2022. Over 60 Oromo organizations call for a credible and inclusive national dialogue. 63 worldwide Oromo civic, professional, advocacy, human rights, and community organizations have established National Dialogue Commission NDC in Ethiopia and calling for careful sequencing to ensure credible and all-inclusive national dialogue facilitated by a neutral convener. According to our source from the local media outlet Addis Standard, the attempt is the first of its kind in bringing large number of worldwide Oromo civic organizations, echoing concerns in unison about the lack of proper sequencing, impartiality, and transparency with Ethiopia's planned National Dialogue Commission. Accordingly, the statement recommends cessation of hostilities and comprehensive ceasefire between all armed groups in the country, and the government should be ensured before inclusive dialogue began, followed by unconditional and unimpeded provision of humanitarian assistance. Addis Standard also reported that the release of all political detainees, as well as the withdrawal of foreign forces, especially Eritrean security intelligence forces from Ethiopia. This, according to the report, is instrumental to pave the way for all countries in the region and Ethiopia's bilateral partners to play a constructive role in ending the humanitarian siege and ongoing civil wars. Somalia lifts terrorist tag on Ethiopian ONLF movement. The federal government of Somalia on Sunday announced it no longer categorizes an Ethiopian freedom movement as a terrorist organization, withdrawing a decision made more than 4 years ago. Mogadishu now says Ethiopia's Ogaden National Liberation Front, ONLF, labeled as a terrorist group since 2017, is no longer seen as such. The cabinet meeting, which was chaired by Prime Minister Mohammed Hussein Roble in Mogadishu, said the decision was effective immediately. Sudanese protest turns deadly as security forces crack down on demonstrators. 3 people were killed as Sudanese security forces cracked down on protest. Sudanese security forces on Monday killed 3 protesters in the capital Khartoum during a demonstration calling for civilian rule almost 3 months after a military coup. France 24 reported that the latest killings by security forces came during demonstrations in the capital Khartoum and in a city to the south by thousands calling for civilian rule. The report quoted the Central Committee of Sudan doctors as saying that the first protester was shot in the chest within live round. The second took a bullet to the head. The third was killed in the city of Wad Medani. south of Khartoum with bullets to the head and the shoulder. According to the committee's report, this latest death bring to 76 the number of protesters killed in a crackdown on anti-coup demonstrations. Meanwhile, Sudan's Burhan sacks undersecretaries appointed by Hamdok. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, chairman of the Sovereign Council, relieved a number of undersecretaries appointed by the former Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok. In a decision issued on January 20, al-Burhan, who is also the facto head of the government, relieved 4 senior officials appointed by Hamdok before resigning on January the 2nd. The relieved undersecretaries are Ghanim Al-Tayyib of the Ministry of Justice, Ayman Saeed Salim of the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Al-Zain Muhammad Ibrahim of the Ministry of Higher Education, Hanan Ibrahim Ahmed of the Ministry of Education. Salim had resigned after his appointment as acting minister, saying Al-Burhan has no legitimacy to appoint him. On October 25, 2021, Al-Burhan dissolved the transitional authority and declared the state of emergency in Sudan. Sudan Tribune also reported that the Sudanese who staged protests even before his first communique have rejected the coup. Well, this brings us to the end of our news package for today. This has been Shimelis M, Gebremichael, here at the UMD Media. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our programs through our other platforms in order to become the first to know and what is going on in Ethiopia and the Horn. Once more, thank you for watching and have a good one.